Yeah, so we ended up, finally this taxi driver pulled up to this, he said, would you stay in a hostel? We said we'd stay anywhere about this point because we didn't have any place to stay. A hostel, if you know, they call them youth hostels usually, is where they're pretty reasonable price, but you do your own thing. I mean, you share a bathroom, you fix your own breakfast or whatever, wash your own dishes, things like that. Some people even work there to pay for it, and a lot of young people were there. So we spent one night in a youth hostel in Tel Aviv, and it turned out to be a good experience. This is before we hadn't joined up with the group yet. Once we finally we went back to the airport the next day and joined up with the group, and things went a lot more smoothly after that. Next. This is from our first hotel, which was in Nazareth. You've heard, you read the account you read just recently, probably, Brother Ron, about when Jesus spoke in the synagogue and they took him out to the brow of a hill and they were going to throw him down. This might be the hill because our hotel looked out over the Jezreel Valley. It was a pretty big drop off there. Next. Then we went to Megiddo. And I might tell you we were with a group of people. I'll tell you who the two main people were. Derek Gilbert and Michael Heiser. Have any of you heard of them? Well, Alvin Bushman has. Good people. And Derek Gilbert was on our bus, and he wasn't the guy. I mean, Yeshai Avatal was the guide, but Derek would get on the microphone and speak every once in a while. He had some different ideas. His idea, the guides will tell you Megiddo, that's where the Armageddon's going to be. His idea was the Armageddon was going to be at Jerusalem. Most people say that Jesus went up to, what was the Mount of Transfiguration? Can't remember the name of it. But he thought it was up on Mount Hermon. And they say everything different over there, like not Hermon, not Herman. Anyway, Megiddo is a big, what they call a tell, where there have been ancient ruins and so forth. Next. That's looking down from on top of Megiddo. Next. Then this is within the city of Nazareth. One of my favorite places actually was the Nazareth village, where they reenact different scenes from Jesus' time, like shepherds and sheep.
There was people doing yarn. There was, I don't know, I can't remember.
Yeah, all kinds, wine press, different things like that. No, this is the big Catholic church in Nazareth, the Church of the Annunciation. We're, commemorating Jesus, the angel appearing to Jesus, angel appearing to Mary and saying that Jesus would be born. A pretty elaborate church. Not a very old church. Maybe 100 years old, which over there isn't.
It's just part of it, too. It goes way up.
Next. And this was at a wildlife place. Next. There's Joyce standing by the pool there. This is way up in the north end of Israel. A fig tree with a fig on it. We have fig trees. Did you know that? You can grow fig trees in the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles, but I've never had any figs on them. So I wanted to see a picture. I wanted to see actual fig growing. Next. Olives. The olives you see are kind of small right then on an olive tree. Next. Lots of stickery plants over there. One observation I made was that not much bindweed. In fact, I saw virtually no bindweed, and that's the part of the world from which bindweed came. And I've had lots of discussions with my brother Curtis, he's a plant scientist, about why doesn't bindweed. He says they have some natural enemies over there that we don't have. And he said if we brought those natural enemies over here, we'd have other problems. But anyway, we saw lots of thistle plants, though. The Bible talks about thorns and thistles. They're there. I'll go ahead and tell you what. We don't have pictures of them, but we saw gazelles, quite a few wild gazelles. They have the long, couldn't get a picture of them, but long horns on them and stuff. We saw these little rock badgers or conies, or Hydrax, I think is their official name, Hydrax. We saw storks, quite a few storks. Lots of birds migrate through there. We saw pelicans. We saw many crops, date palms, bunches of date palms. Okay, let's go to the next picture. This is a gate in the far north part of Israel, which it's on the road to Damascus. I thought maybe it would have been one that the Apostle Paul or Saul went through, but probably it was already closed off by then. They said Abraham went through there, though, probably. Next. This is our bus, and it does say 70-year tour on the front. May 6th through 16th. There were, like I said, 50 people on this bus. That guy getting off I think he's a U.S. native, but he lives in Australia. The other woman there lives in Belleville, Texas, which I said, well, I've got good friends in Belleville, Texas. So she didn't happen to know him, but yeah, Belleville's not a real big place. There were people from states like Utah, California, people from Tennessee, North Carolina, Ohio. Not any from real close here. Texas is about as close as any of them. Well, South Texas, not this part of Texas. Several different foreign countries. New Zealand, there are quite a few New Zealanders. We had a young woman from New Zealand on our bus. One guy asked me this. He said, have you ever seen a snake in the wild? And I said, oh, yeah, about every day I see a snake in the summer. He says, never seen a snake. Live in New Zealand, they don't have snakes. Yeah, that'd be kind of boring. In a zoo. Next. This is at Capernaum. Glenda and Joyce. Next. This is also at Capernaum. I believe that's an olive press in Capernaum. Next. The White Synagogue. See, they've had bad earthquakes. Brother Ron, you've talked about this, about Capernaum. The synagogue Jesus went to was destroyed by an earthquake, and they built another one over it, and this is what's left of it. If you go to the next picture, you probably remember that. Next. The Sea of Galilee. This was one of Joyce's favorite places. We went out on a boat. On our first trip, we didn't go out to the Sea of Galilee. It was really nice and smooth there when we were there. Next. Next. And we had a guy playing praise and worship songs, wasn't it? A Jewish Christian guy playing praise and worship songs. And they were for sale if you wanted to buy some. We didn't. But our guides always thought we were pretty cheap. At least our first guide was. He thought we were cheap. Another boat on the Sea of Galilee. Next. Well, that was... I don't know. That one didn't look real good.
Maybe that was a fishing boat.
It might have been a fishing boat. There's our guide, Yashai Avital, and a guy by the name of Tom. When we were reading from the New Testament, he'd usually let our group was Christian. I don't think there was a Jewish person among the bunch, but so our Jewish guide would let a Christian person read. You can see Tom is reading there, which is good. Next. I won't bother to read this, but this is where Jesus was, this is where they say Jesus was baptized. Like Brother Ron says, we really don't know where Jesus was baptized. He was baptized in the Jordan River, so good enough. Next. Can you read that, Joyce?
It says, welcome to your the baptismal site on the Jordan River.
Yeah, it's right there where the Jordan comes out of the Sea of Galilee is where it is. Next. We had, 12 people on our bus that were baptized. And I don't know if you can see Derek Gilbert's down there. There's Derek Gilbert is doing the baptism. Next. Okay, our particular tour went to some places most tours don't go. We went into the disputed territories, also known as the West Bank. And we went to 2 towns, or 3 towns. We went to, get it right, Bethel. They say Bethel or something, but Bethel. We went to Shiloh, And then the other direction, we went to Hebron. This is Bethel, or Bethel. And it talks about, remember when Jacob slept on the rock and he saw the ladder? We are climbing Jacob's ladder. You know that one? That's where this happened. Next. And there's a tree that was, well, next is a tree. That tree's several hundred years old. Take their word for it. Next. Now, is this, what's that say? Can you read it, Joy? Oh, yeah, Jeroboam. Remember Jeroboam, after the split between Israel and Judah, he put a calf at Bethel. One at Bethel and one at Ai. No, one at Dan. Bethel and Dan. And he said, you don't need to go to Jerusalem anymore. Just come worship at this calf right here. Or if you're too far for this one, go to the one in Dan. Next. This was our tour was the Lipkin Tours. This is the owner-operator of Lipkin Tours. His name is Aaron Lipkin. A real interesting guy. Let me just give you his background. His father was a Jew from New York City. His mother was a Jew from Cairo, Egypt. And he was born in Israel, I think. Well, he lives there. I think he was born there. But he married a Jewish woman from Yemen. She's actually in the picture, but you have to look real close. She's right there kind of standing like a good Jewish wife back behind him there, right? Nice people, these Lipkins. His dad, I got to tell you the joke. His dad spoke to us one night. Well, we had long days. We'd get up, we'd eat breakfast, and then we'd get on the bus about 7:30. We would go on tour all day, walking, carrying on, get back, about 6:30 or 7 sometimes earlier. And then we would have an evening conference
Well, they had supper first.
Yeah, people that eat supper. But then there was what? A lecture tour. And Joyce and I were kind of tired, but I said, we paid for this. We're going to go to every one of these things. And some of the best stuff was in the evenings. And his dad spoke to us, and he said, where are you from? And I said, Oklahoma. He said, I've been there. He said, you know what they call pallbearers in Oklahoma? And I said, no, karaoke. Yeah, pretty sick joke. Okay, next. This is Shiloh. About the only thing I wanted to show you about, you've heard of Shiloh, but about the only thing I wanted to show you is the next picture. That's what it looked like around Shiloh. In the West Bank, where they really haven't done much improving, it just looked like a whole bunch of rocks. I mean, it really looks pretty bleak there, doesn't it? But the part that Israel's had for a long time, it looks really pretty verdant. It's rocky everywhere, though. Next. Masada. You've heard of Masada? There's several pictures of Masada. We'll just go through these. This is looking down from Masada. You've talked a little bit about Masada, I think. Last time we were here, you talked about Masada. How the last Jewish holdouts in 73 A.D. were up on top of this thing where King Herod had built all this stuff up on top of this big, bluff, big mesa type thing. Next.
It's like, this is where some of the soldiers were encamped. There is there and there.
The Romans really wanted it back badly because if you'll click to another picture or two, that's looking down over the edge. Next.
There's the ramp.
They built a huge earthen ramp to get up there to get to those people. When they finally got there, almost all of them had killed themselves.
The catapult's still there.
I didn't see a catapult, did Next. That's on Masada. That's something from Herod's time. Our guide, this was on the Sabbath, so we didn't have Yeshai with us that day. We had a young 27-year-old college student that studied in America, his Jewish background. I found him really interesting. Joyce didn't so much, but he went on and on and on about Herod. I mean, he knew all about Herod. I found it really interesting, but
The whole bus ride back to our hotel, I was talking about.
Herod, yeah.
And our tour of Masada took probably twice as long because talking about each place
Yeah.
in detail.
Israel detailed. Next. There I am on top of Masada with the Israeli flag. Go ahead to the next picture and you'll see the Israeli flag. The Israeli flag up on top of Masada, they take their troops up there and they say, Masada will never fall again. And so all their soldiers, this is what our first guy told us. I guess it's true.
In Israel, anybody, any, women and men, 18, and they do it for 2 years, have to go to the
Compulsory,
Yeah.
compulsory military service.
Service for 2 years at 18.
Well, they don't require the Arab Israelis to do it,
But
and they don't require some of the ultra-Orthodox to do it, but most everybody else. There's the Dead Sea. This is actually proof that Joyce waded into the Dead Sea. In the white shirt there,
right.
she did not float. You see some people floating out there. She just waded, and I didn't even wade. I just stuck my hand in.
It's 33% salt.
You float.
Don't sink.
Have any of you been to like Great Salt Lake? You can float there, but this is even. Yeah, it feels slimy, doesn't it? I didn't get into it, okay? Next. Then we went to Hebron. I guess that was on Mother's Day that we went to Hebron.